Hey there, it's week 19 of season 4 of the Andy Griffith Show. This week's episode title is Hot Rod Otis. Barney?
Andy and I are playing Runny in the courthouse one night, and I yell, "What's the big idea, taking all my discards? Why don't you take one from the deck, like I've been doing? Play the game right, creatures." And then Otis comes in drunk, and he starts giving me advice on what cards to put down, by grunting at certain times. But Andy wins the game anyway, and I yell, "Otis, you steered me wrong. I never would have put down that card." And then Otis goes in the jail cell, and he wants us to wake him up at 8 in the morning. And Andy's going to stay overnight, so I leave. And Andy gets Otis a drink of water, and then he tells him a story.
And the next morning you come in and you remind Andy that Otis has to be woken up at 8. And you don't think he really meant it because he was drunk when he said it. So you wake him up anyway as a lesson to him not to say things he didn't mean when he doesn't mean when he's drunk. But it turns out he really did want to be up at 8.
Yeah, he says he's going to go buy something, and he won't tell us what. And he says we'll know when we see it. And it turns out it's a car. And then he drives off to show it to Gunner. And I say, "Andy, this is terrible. Just terrible. It's bad enough having a plain old town drunk, but now we got a mechanized one. As of this minute, we are living in a disaster area." So I plan a driving test for Otis, and I draw an intersection on the floor of the courthouse, and I give Otis a model car, and he makes fun of the right-of-way question, and I yell, "Now cut that out. When you both pull up to the intersection at the same time, the driver on your right has the right-of-way." And then he plays around during the second question too. And Andy says he can go. And I say, "All right, go ahead. Send a man out there with a deadly weapon. See if I care." And Andy tells me just to keep an eye on him for a while without his knowing about it.
But you try to spy on him at his house from the bushes, but he sees you. But then later you do spy on him successfully, and you report to Andy by phone that you saw him go buy some red-eye and then go over to Charlie Barney's place. And right now there's a lot of singing and carrying on going on in there. And it's a good bet he's in that house with Charlie drinking.
So Andy and I go over there, and we see him come out of that house drunk and walk up to the car and pass out. And I say, "Well, wouldn't you just know it? All gassed up and gone off for a little drive? What do you say now, Andy? Huh? Was I right? Can you imagine what would have happened if he had gotten behind the wheel?"
So Andy has an idea. You all put him in jail, and then you wake him up with some water in the face and start talking about him right in front of him like he's dead from a drunk driving accident.
And Andy says it must be hard on me. And I say, "His passing leaves a void in my heart that the passing years will never heal. Why did he have to take up driving? Why? He was a good man, Andy, a good man." And Otis keeps saying, "I'm not dead, I'm right here." And then we sing, "We shall meet, but we shall miss him."
And Otis gives in and says, "I didn't want to die," and then starts singing with y'all. And then he goes back to bed, and then you splash water in his face again so he'll think he's waking up from a bad dream.
And he says he ain't gonna drive another car as long as he lives. But then Andy and I find out that he had sold the car to Charlie Varney last night, even before he had started drinking.
We'll see you next week for episode 20.